This is Britain's golden couple, a £500 million empire, 26 years of marriage, 4 children, 2 Netflix documentaries, and as of November, a knighthood from King Charles himself. But 4 days ago, their eldest son released a 6-part statement publicly disowning them. Brooklyn Beckham wrote that he does not want to reconcile with his family, that brand Beckham comes first. That family love is decided by how much you post on social media. And within hours, a woman from David Beckham's past weighed in. Rebecca Loos, who alleged a 4-month affair with David back in 2003, commented that she was so happy Brooklyn was finally speaking publicly, that she knows too well what the Beckhams can be like, that the truth always comes out. This isn't just celebrity drama. For 25 years, there's been a dark side to brand Beckham that their world-class PR machine has worked overtime to bury. Affairs, tax avoidance schemes, leaked emails showing David calling the Honours Committee unappreciative and demanding unless it's a knighthood, forget it. A £150 million deal with Qatar while staying silent on their human rights abuses. And a fashion brand that lost £66 million of David's money before finally turning a profit. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on everything brand Beckham doesn't want you to know. Let's start with what Brooklyn actually said, because the details are far more explosive than the headlines suggested. He claims that in the lead up to his wedding, his parents repeatedly pressured and attempted to bribe him into signing away the rights to his name. A contract that would have given them control over his commercial future, affecting him, his wife, and their future children. When he refused to sign, he says the attacks began. The wedding itself, according to Brooklyn, was a disaster orchestrated by his mother. Victoria had agreed to design Nicola's wedding dress. Then, in the 11th hour, she cancelled. Nicola had to urgently find a replacement. The night before the ceremony, family members allegedly told Brooklyn that his bride was not blood, not family. But the most humiliating moment came during what was supposed to be his first dance with his wife. Brooklyn says they had planned it for weeks, a romantic song, their moment together in front of 500 guests. Instead, when Mark Anthony called him to the stage, Victoria was waiting there. She danced very inappropriately on me in front of everyone, Brooklyn wrote. I've never felt more uncomfortable or humiliated in my entire life. His wife reportedly left the room crying. David's response to all of this? Speaking at Davos in Switzerland, he said that children are allowed to make mistakes on social media. That's how they learn. His 26-year-old son releases detailed allegations of bribery, manipulation and humiliation, and David dismisses it as a social media mistake. Which is particularly interesting given what David himself has written when he thought no one was watching. In 2017, a website called Football Leaks released 18.6 million documents hacked from David's sports agency. Among them were emails that painted a very different picture of Britain's humble national treasure. When David missed out on a knighthood in 2013, he wrote to his publicist that the Honours Committee were a bunch of unappreciative, and I'll spare you the exact word. Who decides on the honours, he asked. It's a disgrace to be honest, and if I was American, I would have got something like this 10 years ago. When he received an invitation for a lesser award in Spain, his response was blunt. Unless it's a knighthood, forget it. But perhaps most revealing were the emails about his charity work. When asked to match the highest bidders at a UNICEF auction, David allegedly replied that he didn't want to put his personal money into this cause. In another email, discussing a $1 million donation to his own UNICEF fund, he reportedly wrote that pouring this into the fund is like putting my own money in. If there was no fund, the money would be for me. This money is mine. He even demanded nearly £7,000 from UNICEF for a business class flight to an event, despite sponsors already paying for a private jet. After missing the honours list, his publicist wrote that this just gives us even more reason to work further this year on UNICEF, armed forces, other charitable commitments. Essential. David claims these emails were hacked and doctored, taken out of context. UNICEF stood by him, but the damage to his knighthood bid was done. It would take another 8 years before he finally got what he wanted. The emails weren't the only thing blocking that knighthood. There was also the small matter of tax avoidance. In the early 2000s, David and Victoria invested in something called Ingenious Media, a film finance partnership scheme that funded movies including Avatar and Life of Pi. The scheme allowed wealthy investors to offset losses against their tax bills. Other investors included Gary Lineker, Wayne Rooney, Robbie Williams, and Andrew Lloyd Webber. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs took a very different view. They declared it a tax avoidance scheme that artificially invented losses on profitable films. The total tax in dispute reached £1.6 billion across all investors. When David was nominated for a knighthood, HMRC flagged his involvement. The nomination was blocked. It would take years of legal battles before Ingenious eventually won an appeal in 2021, but by then David's reputation had taken the hit. And then there's Qatar. In 2021, David signed a 10-year deal worth £150 million to become a cultural ambassador for the Gulf state hosting the World Cup. £150 million to promote a country where same-sex relationships are illegal and punishable by up to 7 years in prison. A country where women need a male guardian's permission for major life decisions. A country where, according to The Guardian, over 6,500 migrant workers have died since they won the World Cup bid, with 37 deaths directly linked to stadium construction. This is the same David Beckham who appeared on the cover of Attitude magazine in 2002 and was celebrated as an LGBTQ ally for 2 decades. The magazine's owner was so disgusted by the Qatar deal that he removed Beckham's cover from their London office. Comedian Joe Lycett publicly challenged him. You're the first Premiership footballer to do shoots with gay magazines, to speak openly about your gay fans. Now you've signed a reported £10 million deal with Qatar. Lycett threatened to shred £10,000 if David didn't pull out. When David stayed silent, Lycett revealed he had actually donated the money to LGBTQ charities instead. Singer Will Young called it greedy enough, adding that the burying of your head in the sand from you, your team, and your advisors is repellent and cowardice personified. David's defence. He's always believed football has the power to be a force for good. He said he had conversations with LGBTQ people in Qatar who told him they felt safe. What he never did was publicly criticise Qatar's laws, not once. For £150 million, he kept quiet. And he needed that money. Because while David's brand was generating tens of millions a year, Victoria's fashion empire was bleeding cash at an extraordinary rate. Victoria Beckham launched her fashion label in 2008. For 15 consecutive years, it failed to make a profit. By 2018, the company was losing £4,000 every single day. The annual loss hit £12.3 million. David started bailing her out. £5.2 million in 2016. Another £12 million the following year. Then in 2019, a £23 million rescue package. By 2022, total losses since launch had reached £66 million. The company was £54 million in debt. In her Netflix documentary last year, Victoria admitted she used to cry before going to work every day, that she felt like a firefighter, that she was in quicksand. The investor who eventually helped turn things around, David Belhassan, said he'd never seen something as hard as that to fix. For years, she had people telling her what she wanted to hear. He discovered the company was spending £70,000 a year on office plants, and another £15,000 just to water them. David's own words from the documentary are revealing. It made me panic. I was panicked by it, because I never saw anything coming back. Eventually I was like, this cannot continue. The brand finally made its first profit in 2023, thanks to a successful beauty line. But by then, David had poured over £30 million of his own money into keeping his wife's dream alive. Which brings us to the carefully controlled image. The Beckhams have released 2 Netflix documentaries, David's in 2023, which won an Emmy, Victoria's in 2025. Both were presented as intimate, fly-on-the-wall glimpses into their real lives. Both were executive produced by the Beckhams themselves through David's company Studio 99. Brooklyn attended the premiere of his father's documentary in 2023. By 2025, he was absent from his mother's premiere. He was absent from his father's 50th birthday party. He was absent from the knighthood ceremony at Windsor Castle. Investigative journalist Tom Bauer released his own unauthorised account, The House of Beckham, in 2024. He described their marriage as a devil's bargain built as much on financial convenience as romance. He alleged that in 2016, things got so toxic that each of their publicists fed negative stories about the other side to their favourite tabloid journalists. He claims David accused Victoria of waging a media war against him. He even suggests the couple weren't living together that year. Bauer also catalogued multiple alleged affairs beyond Rebecca Loos, including a model David allegedly called Tinkerbell, a beauty salon owner, and others. David has denied all of them. But here's what makes Brooklyn's statement so significant. For the first time, someone from inside the family is confirming what outsiders have alleged for years. That brand Beckham is a business operation, not a family. That image comes before everything. That the loving social media posts and family photo opportunities are performances. For my entire life, Brooklyn wrote, my parents have controlled narratives in the press about our family. Performative social media posts, family events and inauthentic relationships have been a fixture of the life I was born into. Rebecca Loos, watching from the sidelines after 20 years, said it was incredibly brave to go up against them. The strongest, most powerful couple in the media who have all the money in the world for the best PR, the best lawyers. So where does this leave brand Beckham? The empire still stands at £500 million. Inter Miami, which David bought into for $25 million, is now valued at over $1 billion. His personal endorsements bring in tens of millions annually. Victoria's fashion brand is finally profitable. But Brooklyn has walked away. He's aligned himself with his wife's family instead. His father-in-law, Nelson Peltz, is worth £1.6 billion, 3 times the entire Beckham fortune. Brooklyn married up, and he's made his choice. The other children remain loyal. Cruz publicly defended his parents when Brooklyn unfollowed them, writing that his mum and dad woke up blocked, as did he. David got his knighthood. 22 years after receiving his OBE, 11 years after his first nomination was blocked, he finally became Sir David Beckham. Victoria is now technically Lady Beckham, though she reportedly won't use the title. The PR machine will keep spinning. Another documentary perhaps? More carefully curated Instagram posts? More family photos at fashion weeks and football matches with the children who remain? But Rebecca Loos's words hang in the air. The truth always comes out. For 25 years, the Beckhams have survived affair allegations, tax scandals, leaked emails and humanitarian criticism. They've buried bad stories under good publicity, paid for image rehabilitation with charity appearances, and controlled their narrative through billion-pound Netflix deals. Their eldest son just told the world it was all a performance. And the woman who claims David cheated with her 2 decades ago says she knew too well what they could be like. The dark side of the Beckhams isn't a single scandal, it's a pattern. Image over substance, brand over family, money over principles. £500 million builds a very effective PR machine, but it cannot buy back a son who's decided to tell the truth.